All right, I have 10:33 Central Time. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got till 11 o'clock Central. We'll probably finish a little before that, but we really appreciate all of you joining us today. It's a very important event. This is a education session for Pega sellers who have prospective customers in the financial services space that our solution called LoanExpediter will help them solve a particularly onerous challenge in their lending operations and help close gaps, but very importantly, not have to do a rip and replace of their current origination system. This is actually an enhancement to their current lending operations and gives them a significant lift, as you'll see during the discussion today. Now, I'm very pleased. By the way, let me introduce myself just very quickly. I am David Bliss. I am responsible for sales and marketing at Rulesware. I am pleased to say that I spent 9 years at Pega, and I'm thrilled to have all of you joining us today. I'm also super excited to introduce you to Brent. He is going to share with you today what we're doing in this lending space with LoanExpediter. And let me give you just a brief background about Brent. He has spent over 20 years in the financial services space as a transformational leader, really helping customers be better served by the financial institutions where he has played significant roles. So he brings a very broad breadth and depth of experience, and you're going to be able to hear that today and learn what's really, really important for your prospective customers and your existing customers. So without ado, let's go ahead and get started, Brent.
All right, thank you, David. So I'm going to go through the document today, and just to set the background for everybody. So what we're doing today is just trying to provide you a preview of what we're going to do on April 22nd with a much larger audience. And so the agenda for the 22nd is we'll cover the challenges with lending today. How do we optimize the borrower journey? And so we'll go over those two today. Numbers 3 and number 4, the LoanExpediter in action, an actual demo. That will be about a 14 to 15 minute demo of the actual solution on the 22nd, as well as when we conclude the demo, we'll open up into a Q&A session for all of those that are in attendance on the 22nd. So in today's meeting, we'll cover 1 and 2. On the 22nd, we will cover 1 through 4 with not only yourselves, hopefully you'll be able to be there, but also many of your client relationships. So what did we try and do here? What's the goal of this solution? So what we were trying to do is look at, and David mentioned, how do we start to provide value within the loan origination or loan fulfillment process? And so from my experience several years ago when I was at a regional bank here in the US, we had a series of different lending organizations, whether it's consumer or multiple across small business and corporate lending. And each of them had fulfillment steps that are very standardized, right? We all kind of follow through a series of key steps that everybody has to do, but the way in which we went through them was very different, even within one organization. And what we are finding and have found that's very common amongst many financial institutions, both banks and credit unions, is that, depending on which team you're on, whether it's the energy lending sector, the corporate lending sector, the small business, or it's a consumer lending, or maybe a mortgage lending, all of them are executing similar steps, but doing it in a very different way. And so rather than creating a solution that's, hey, let's go rip and replace an LOS system or underwriting, CRM, pricing and fees engine, et cetera, we sought out to figure out, how do we leverage Pega, given that that's where we're most familiar? How do we leverage an incredibly empowered tool, rules-based workflow engine, to help orchestrate across a very complex and disconnected process? And so the first problem we were trying to tackle was the paper problem. So you guys are all familiar, or many of you are familiar with the lending process, and both in consumer mortgage or in commercial lending, there are a series of documents or forms that are required. Generally, you're going to see 15, 20, 25 different types of documents, and that can add up to 100 to 200 to 300 pages of actual content that is coming in. And it may come in via mail, it may come in someone handing it to you in the branch, it may come in via email, it may become off some sort of portal online in several different ways. It can be a fax or a scan. So there's many ways in which this source content is coming in, and it's coming in via different document types. And many times it's not in a secured format. And then there's a whole big manual effort to identify what are these documents, what loan are they associated with. And so on the front end of our solution is a platform called Encapture that has the ability to not only recognize each of these documents, it's trained, but it also then indexes the documents and then classifies them. So I can take documents from pretty much anywhere. I can receive that content. I can actually, and then in an automated fashion, I can identify the document. What is this? It's a credit document. It's a financial document. It's a title document. It's an appraisal document, whatever it is. I can then associate it to that particular loan. And the tool not only has that capability, but it's also going to help classify it and stack that up against that loan in an organized and manner that is defined and designed by the client. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. This leads to a whole series of manual data entry mistakes where I'm taking the content from these documents. I'm now trying to get it into the system. I'm trying to get data points out of the documents into the system. And so I'm opening a document and then I'm pivoting over and working into a different system. And so it creates a very disconnected process. And then the third part here around the paper and really just the requirements has to do with the fact that if you're in the fulfillment process, you're a lending organization, you have audit requirements that are coming from your internal audit group. You also have it coming from external auditors, as well as regulatory partners, and then investors. If you're selling loans on the backside of this, you actually have a whole series of investor requirements that you have to embed into your audit process. So we looked at all of these types of challenges. The next step was looking at the process itself. And so you see here that we've listed the multiple systems that you're going to deal with, from CRM and LOS all the way through the closing doc system, which might be a Laser Pro or a Wolters Kluwer's or some other type of industry solution. But then you have the multiple parties and stakeholders. So we have many hands in the cookie jar here that are working through a loan to try and implement a loan fulfillment process. And then you have the multiple processes. And so when we look at the processes, based on experience, true life experience, what we've seen over and over is many of these employees that are involved in the loan fulfillment process, while many of them follow similar steps and they have an LOS system, what you also see is many sticky notes and many workarounds because of the gaps in their system or the gaps in their processes or in their training. And so, or their knowledge. And so they've figured out their own way to get this loan through their steps or through the actions that need to be taken by them. And what we want to do is try and address all of these items in what we're going to call a loan fulfillment orchestration tool. But it's not just a tool, it's not just a workflow, it's an intelligent workflow. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that intelligence. So the first capability or feature that we're highlighting here is the ability to automate document collection and MDR generation. So MDR stands for minimum document required. And so what this is really saying here is that I not only have the ability to ingest all of the documents that you're going to send to me, I have the ability to actually automate following up on missing MDR documents. And what the MDR is, just so everybody has the context for that, that's the actual required documents that are going to be necessary to be present so that I can actually qualify this borrower and then originate the loan. So the system actually will say, what loan product is it? What state is it being originated in? Oh, here's the 9 documents you need to have to be able to qualify and originate this particular asset or loan. So the system will do that. Just to give you a sense of the intelligence built in here, We have over 3,200 loan document types that are embedded already into the system. So those are already loaded into the system. Secondarily, we have approximately 100 collateral types and the collateral product options that are driving consistency and alignment with both company policy and company risk appetite. So between those two capabilities, I'm now making sure that I'm able to satisfy all asset classes, regulatory and investor requirements around what documents or forms need to be completed. I'm also able to align with our risk appetite and our investors around what collateral types are acceptable and collateral products themselves for this particular loan product. And that intelligence is built into the system. The second key feature here we're highlighting is a virtual file folder. So just for everybody to imagine with me, take a little bit of a trip with me on, everybody that's in the loan fulfillment process in all these financial institutions generally works with 2, and we've seen 3 monitors. So imagine on your left-hand side of your screen, I have what are the steps that I need to take, what are the questions I need to answer. Within each of those questions, by the way, there are instructions that are embedded so I can hover over it and see, okay, this is what I need to be looking for at this point in time. This is the question I need to answer if I'm in underwriting, or I'm in doc prep specialist, or if I'm in closing, or if I'm in booking, or what's called boarding a loan. Those questions are there. The instructions are there. If the answer is no, there's an exception process and a routing, obviously using power of Pega there, that will allow a more automated and contained workflow, so that I'm not leaving the system, sending emails, making phone calls, using other systems just to try and orchestrate and fulfill this loan. That all actually is contained within the system. The virtual file folder, imagine now, is on your right-hand monitor. And what that's doing is it's gathering all the documents that have been submitted for this loan, and it's actually pulling forth based on your role. So, oh, you're the underwriter. Your name is Brent. Okay, these are the 3 documents. You don't need to see all 26 documents. These are the 3 documents that you need to fulfill or execute your activities. So those documents now are on my right-hand monitor, and I can click on them and that image comes up. So now if you imagine on the left-hand side, I'm answering questions. I have instructions on what I need to do. On the right-hand side, I have the actual form or the document, the source data. So I can look on my right-hand monitor, I can see the data, I can enter my answers on the left-hand monitor, and I can keep executing this in a very structured, standardized, and now it becomes more measurable and predictable steps to fulfill this loan. The next capabilities that we wanted to highlight is really just the power of Pega and the ability to orchestrate this fulfillment process. So you guys are all familiar with the fact that all the work baskets, the ability to create the teams, the SLAs, the roles and responsibilities, the escalation processes, all of that we've leveraged, and then we've tailored it for the loan fulfillment process. And so in there, we also have mapping capabilities. Again, what I've previously mentioned is to pull forth based on your role. So when you log in and we recognize who you are and what your role is, we will pull forth only the screens you need to see. We'll pull forth the questions that you need to answer with those instructions, and pull forth the documents you need to actually complete those. So that full orchestration keeps the persona or the actor that's doing whatever particular step it is, again, closing, underwriting, boarding, etc. It actually helps them. The necessity for training, which generally in today's environment takes several weeks of shadowing, is how it's done today in the lending environment in many financial institutions. I may spend 3 to 6 weeks just shadowing some of my colleagues to better understand the systems they use, the little exceptions and workaround processes they use, the Excel spreadsheets and other types of documents they use, as well as the resource materials they use, whether it's a policy or a guideline or a tool that's been created to help facilitate their process. We've taken all of that and built that now into the system so that we can drive a very consistent orchestration of the loan fulfillment lifecycle. The next thing we're highlighting here is just the seamless borrower and lender transparency. And so in today's environment, just to give context to this, it's very common that you will have several hundred, if not a few thousand calls that are made from the lender or relationship manager or someone who's a role that will be called a lender assistant. That's somebody who really takes and does a lot of the work for the relationship manager to get the loan actually qualified and fulfilled. Those calls will continually come back to the back office, the people who are trying to fulfill the loan. And they're asking, you know, where is the loan? What else? Is there anything missing? Is there something required? How much longer? Over 60% of the phone calls that land in that back office loan operations and fulfillment process today, over 60% of those calls are from the lenders or the lender assistant trying to figure out, where is my loan? My client is asking, where is the loan? When are they going to have their funds? What's happening? And so obviously leveraging Cosmos and the ability to have configurable and tailored dashboards and the home screen, we're able to provide real-time transparency, messaging, and tasking all within the system, so that, again, we're trying to get away from emails that get lost and phone calls that get lost, trying to get away from folders of documents sitting on people's desks and we don't know where they are and we can't track it down. We've built all of that now into the system, so that it starts to drive consistency and transparency throughout the whole process. And then the last part here, the last part here is the embedded audit risk management. So if you guys are familiar with lending, you know how extremely important it is to have the QC and audit practices not only built into the process, but throughout the process. And so in any loan origination organization, there are requirements to get that loan. Not only can I qualify a borrower? Can I actually board the borrower? So I go through a closing process. I have to validate then I've met all of the state and federal regulations. There are internal compliance practices and policies I have to adhere to. And then there's investor requirements, and whether that's a GSE or it's a private investor, and private investors could be hedge funds, private equity, or someone like, you know, Chase or Bank of America, et cetera, that are buying assets. They'll layer on top their own requirements, and then another layer actually is your where your funding sources come from. So you have lines of credit, basically warehouse lines with several different institutions, and is typical for most financial institutions. And each of those organizations will have their own layer of requirements. And so that you're going to constantly have to prove, I did this loan, I originated it, I fulfilled it, and I boarded it in alignment with all of those standards. What we've done is we've built into the system questionnaires that are tailorable, configurable throughout each step of the way, so that we can embed not only what are the things you need to answer, how do you make sure this is the right loan to do, but also make sure you're doing the loan the right way the first time. That's embedded to every step. On the back end of the process, we actually have two different QC, quality control activities. One is for the boarding and booking process, and then one is for the general loans. And we have over 3,500 questions. So these are loan origination and fulfillment true questions, intelligence that's built into the system. And many of them are, you know, deal with specifically, is this a commercial loan or is it a consumer loan? And then it actually dives down into a level of, well, what type of product are you originating? Is this a warehouse line? Is it a floor plan loan? Is this a 1 to 4 family real estate loan? Is it a commercial real estate loan? Based on the product you're originating, there are a series of questions, instructions, and escalation procedures that are built into this solution, so that at the end of your fulfillment lifecycle, again, I know that I've actually originated the right product. I had all the right documents available and the right content available throughout the life of this product. I've driven a standardized and consistent process, and the outcome is a loan or an asset that either can be serviced or can be sold, depending on that financial institution's practices, in a very successful and predictable and compliant manner. And so that is what we've built. It's taken a while, and we've continued to evolve it. And it's very configurable, as you all know, with leveraging the power of Pega. So on the 22nd, this is where we would move now into a 14 to 15 minute demo of the actual solution, and then wrap up after the end of that demo with, you know, just a reminder of the capabilities that they just saw in the solution. We will demonstrate all of these capabilities within the system in that demonstration, in the demo on the 22nd. So this was built and delivered for lending experts. So This is built on experience of people who have been in lending and companies that are doing lending today. We've leveraged a whole series, several years of practice and experience to build this solution. We've leveraged the power of both Pega and Encapture to build and create what we call a loan fulfillment orchestration, an intelligent loan and fulfillment orchestration tool. And then the idea here is that for any lender, there's a significant step forward or acceleration of their journey to digitize, standardize, and produce consistent and successful results with this product. So that is what we've developed. We're very excited to share it with you and your clients and everybody on the 22nd and when we do the webinar. So David, over to you. You're on mute, David.
Very good, Brent. Thank you. That is, I hope everybody's excited as we are. And 22nd should be a really, really good event for our customers, our prospects. Let me give you a couple of calls to action here. One is you should have already received some information about this event. Clearly, if you got the invite, if you haven't been receiving information about this event, if you would kindly drop me an email at david.bliss, that's BLISS, at rulesware.com. I will make sure that you're on the list, or please check your junk folder. You may have gone into your junk folder. So you should have received a couple of emails by now. A couple of quick follow-ups. There were some questions, and I wanted to address them here. There was a question about if the solution integrates or works with servicing platforms. And I think the answer here is that yes, there would be a handoff of the package to the servicing system. And Brent, would you like to
Sure.
add any more to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can integrate to a servicing system. A big step forward here for any lender that's actually going to take on that servicing now, whether you're selling the servicing or you're retaining the servicing, would actually be to pass the full file over. So we have the ability to pass that, integrate into a servicing platform, and then now you've automated that whole onboarding process. So yes, we can do that. That will be a customer by customer preference in which we would employ that capability, but absolutely it can.
Okay. And then there was a question about out-of-the-box APIs to various systems like Salesforce, Encino, and some other packages. Remember, this is a Pega based solution, so our ability to link into those systems is through Pega. Just as another FYI, you're going to see another solution and a product coming out for new account opening for financial services in a couple of months from us, and we'll begin having our own direct links to some of these core platforms out there from FIS, Fiserv, Jack Henry, and so forth. So you will have an opportunity to look forward to that in the future as well. So let's wrap up here. Brent, would you kindly bring up the sales card for all the folks? I want to share that, and we're going to end with this. This is really good information. This is a very detailed 2-page card that will help you understand what you need to know about who your audience is for this solution, the problems that these customers are experiencing, and some of the other things that you just need to know to have a general conversation about why, if somebody says, why should I attend this 22nd event? And this is really good information that you can learn and begin to have this discussion with your prospects and your clients. So let's wrap up with, if you haven't received emails from us or you're not receiving those, again, please drop me a note, david.bliss@rulesware.com. I'll be sure to make sure you get all the information. Your customers, we've sent out thousands and thousands of emails to a prospect list of about 20,000 people, and that we're pushing a big attendance in the financial services area. So we're expecting a large audience next week, but we really need your help. The real people who are going to buy this solution and drive more Pega sales are your prospects and your customers. I know how important this was to me when I had these opportunities at Pega, and I hope you see this opportunity as a great way to drive more sales for you this year. So we're excited that you joined. We're excited for the future with you. And again, if you have any questions or anything else that we can help you with, contact me, david.bliss@rulesware.com. Thank y'all. We'll see you on the 22nd.